But in my view, Donald Trump is also complicit in a genocide. He has helped Benjamin Netanyahu bomb, besiege, starve the people of Gaza for more than 6 months. So would you also call Donald Trump genocide Donald?
No, I wouldn't.
Why?
Because the situation during the Biden administration, that war could have been stopped at a much easier manner than it would be right now. Things are getting significantly more complicated from my perspective.
In today's video, Mehdi Hasan absolutely destroys Bishara Bandai, the founder of Arab Americans for Trump, in a heated debate on Zeteo, when Mehdi Hasan pressed him on Trump's record of giving Israel a blank check for settlement expansion, moving the US embassy to Jerusalem, and cutting off humanitarian aid to Palestinians. Baba had no real answer. The breaking point came when Mehdi Hasan asked him directly, if Biden is Genocide Joe, then shouldn't Trump also be Genocide Donald? So let's dive in and watch how Mehdi Hasan shuts down Bishara Bandai in this heated debate.
I mean, listen, I am, my grandmother was from Gaza.
Yeah.
I relate to the people of Gaza.
But it is a genocide in Gaza.
My goal, it is an Israeli imposed genocide, yes.
But Joe Biden was complicit in that genocide.
You know, I know where you're getting at, but the thing is...
you know what I'm getting at? Because I don't understand why is one president complicit in genocide but not another?
Because...
I didn't make you call him genocide Jew. You called him genocide Jew. You said, this is you last year. Arab and Muslim Americans are sick and tired of genocide Joe. He is arming Israel to the teeth, killing and wounding almost 2% of Gaza's population. Why does that not apply to Donald Trump? Everything in there applies to Donald Trump.
You know,
he gave billions of dollars of weapons to Israel as soon as he came in. He lifted Joe Biden's hold on 2,000-pound bombs.
Donald Trump wants to end that war.
So why did he lift the hold on 2,000-pound bombs? Literally 5 days into office.
Listen, I cannot be responsible for the decision.
I'm not asking you to be responsible. I'm asking you, do you agree with me that he therefore is the same as Biden?
He's not the same as
why?
Biden.
I'm asking you to explain to our viewers why.
Because President Trump wants to end this war, and
Biden said the same thing. Whether you want something is irrelevant. Is he ending the war? No, he's giving them more and more weapons, billions of dollars of weapons. Bypassed Congress to do it.
Time will only tell that the president is going to end this war.
Even if he ends the war. The point is, we're 7 months in right now, 8 months in. A lot of people have died, thousands of thousands.
A lot of people have died.
On Donald Trump's watch.
A lot of people have died.
But you said last year that he would end the war. You told Arab Americans to vote for Trump. But he hasn't ended it.
Listen, I believe whatever I said, I stand by.
No regrets.
About
what you said last year.
No, absolutely not.
So when you said last year that you take Donald Trump at his word, those were your phrase. He is a man of his word, you said, when Donald Trump promised to end the war. I mean, he's broken that word. He hasn't ended the war. In fact, he's made the war much worse. Surely you regret saying that.
Well, I know that he's working very hard to end that war.
That's exactly what people said about Joe Biden, Bishara. And you and I mocked them.
You know what? Joe Biden, from my perspective, was in a different category because from the very beginning, Joe Biden allowed Israel to do whatever they wanted.
So is Donald Trump. In fact, he said, let me just read this quote to you from Donald Trump just last week. He said, Benjamin Netanyahu should finish the job in Gaza. And when he was asked about Netanyahu reoccupying all of Gaza, he said, quote, it's pretty much up to Israel.
I don't believe that's the case.
That's what he said.
I know, but
so why did he say it?
I'm not in the president's mind. But
if Joe Biden had said that, you'd have criticized him. He says it's pretty much up to Israel. This is green light. Finish the job, up to Israel. Those are Donald Trump's words. They're not my words. They're not Joe Biden's.
What Bishara Bandai keeps dodging here is the actual record of Trump's policies toward Israel and Gaza. If we're being honest, Trump wasn't some neutral broker. He was arguably one of the most pro-Netanyahu presidents in US history. He moved the US embassy to Jerusalem, cut off all US funding to UNRWA, the UN agency providing food and medical aid to Palestinians, and he shut down the Palestinian diplomatic mission in Washington. Those moves weren't about peace. They were about giving Israel maximum leverage while leaving Palestinians politically and economically isolated. And the claim that Trump wants to end the war just doesn't square with his actions or words. His administration greenlit record arms sales to to Israel, including the very same 2,000-pound bombs that have been used in Gaza's most destructive strikes. According to a Congressional Research Service report, Trump approved more than $14 billion in arms transfers to Israel during his term. If you're supplying the bombs and cheering on Netanyahu to finish the job, you're not trying to end a war, you're enabling it. Even on the diplomatic side, Trump's much-hyped Abraham Accords normalized relations between Israel and Arab states without addressing Palestinian rights at all. That wasn't a peace deal for Palestinians. It was a regional realignment that sidelined them even further.
You know, all I know and all I'm working for is an end to this war.
I appreciate that. That's why we invited you here. That's why we talked about where we are in the negotiation. But you also played a big role in the election, and I'm just trying to get a sense of, do you have any regret? You're saying no. I'm wondering why, when he's clearly betrayed you.
Well, listen, the president is intent on ending this war.
Intention doesn't matter.
No, but you have to
Everybody
start,
says they want to end the war.
They have to start with an intention, okay, that leads to action. I believe that right now, this week, a lot of things are happening at the White House, which I believe are going to end this war. Everybody is tired of it, including this administration.
And how does the war end in terms of what Israel gets? Because many would argue that what Donald Trump is proposing is much worse than anything Biden or Harris proposed. He's proposing a plan for the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. Everyone must leave.
No, listen, if you recall, in February of this year, I came out categorically opposed to the notion of having Gazans leave Gaza by force or by
which is what the president you voted for has called for. He called for it. He said we will clean out that whole thing.
But you know, I am opposed to anyone forcing Palestinians to leave their homeland for any reason whatsoever on earth, okay?
He said they have to leave and they can't come back. How are you okay with that?
But no, Palestinians will not, I'm not okay with that.
But he said that. Donald Trump, I don't know why you're getting annoyed at me. Donald Trump said, when he was asked on Fox, once they leave, can they come back? This is what Donald Trump said. No, they wouldn't. How are you okay with that?
I'm not okay with that.
So have you told him you're not okay with that?
They know exactly how I feel.
So isn't the Trump plan for ending the war in Gaza much worse than anything we've seen before?
Listen, what is at the table right now is a permanent end to the war, Israeli withdrawal, Arab troops going in along with international troops to take over and manage the Gaza Strip. And that's what at the table. There were times when the president said, no, Palestinians will not be forced out of Gaza. Palestinians can always come back to Gaza. He said that. So it just depends.
What day of the week it is.
You know, I'm not responsible for what the president says.
I'm not asking you to be responsible. I'm saying, do you agree with it or do you condemn it? You were very vocally condemnatory of the previous administration, which you were every right to, and I shared your criticisms. I'm wondering why you won't be critical when this president says much worse than Joe Biden.
Listen,
I don't remember Joe Biden telling people not to come back.
I have the right to be critical, but I do not condemn the president.
What Bishara Baba keeps sidestepping here is that Trump's own words and policies went further than almost any modern US president in enabling Israel's most extreme positions. When Trump said Palestinians should leave and not come back, that wasn't some offhand comment. It lined up with moves his administration had already taken, cutting all US aid to UNRWA, shutting down the Palestinian diplomatic missions in DC, and recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital while ignoring Palestinian claims entirely. Those weren't gestures of peace, they were deliberate steps to erase Palestinian political standings. And on the so-called peace plans, Trump's 2020 deal of the century explicitly endorsed permanent Israeli control over large chunks of the West Bank and left Palestinians with a fragmented, non-contiguous territory that experts said looked more like Bantustans than a sovereign state. Human rights groups at the time, including Amnesty International, warned that the plan was essentially a blueprint for annexation and displacement. So when Mehdi Hasan pressed Bishara about ethnic cleansing, he's not exaggerating. Trump's record already leans into the direction. It's also telling that Bishara admits he's not okay with Trump's statements but still refuses to condemn them. That's the core problem. Trump's supporters often recognize the extremism but excuse it because of partisan loyalty. Meanwhile, the people paying the price are Palestinians in Gaza who continue to suffer under siege and bombardment while American politicians use their lives as bargaining chips.
Okay.
Because I believe he wants to end this war.
Do you believe he is racist towards Palestinians?
No.
So why does he use Palestinian as a slur, as an insult? He said Chuck Schumer is a Palestinian. He's no longer Jewish, he's a Palestinian. When you hear the President of the United States use your ethnicity, your nationality as a slur, that doesn't bother you as someone who's working so hard on his behalf?
Listen, that was during the campaign. And I came out...
No, it was the other day. It was in May. He called Chuck Schumer a Palestinian. Literally a couple months ago. I cringed as I saw it. Did you not?
When he did that during the campaign, I came out with a press release that said we cannot be used as a slur.
When he said to Joe Biden, right? I remember you did.
No. He said that to Joe Biden, and he called Chuck Schumer at the same time. He called them Palestinians.
So how does that make you feel that 6-8 months later he's still doing it?
It's not acceptable. It is not acceptable.
Have you made that clear to the White House? I mean, you're a Palestinian working hard for the Trump administration to try and get peace. And Donald Trump goes on TV and keeps calling the most senior Jewish Democrat in the country. He's become a Palestinian. He's no longer Jewish. He said this in March. He said it in May.
I'm very proud of being Palestinian. I'm very proud of that. And I will not accept nor allow anybody to use my ethnic background.
Hold on, you are accepting it because you said
I'm not accepting.
You said a moment ago you won't condemn Donald Trump.
There's a difference between disagreeing with the president and condemning the president.
I feel like this is partisanship, Bishara. Because if Biden had said this, you and I would have criticized him. But when Trump says it, I'm criticizing him, but you're not.
There's more at stake right now than there used to be before. Meaning, I am involved in a process where I could have my views heard.
Okay.
If I go out and condemn the president, do you think he's willing to hear my views?
That's a fair point. That's one of the challenges of diplomacy.
That's where I am.
So let me ask you this then on the diplomatic front. You said last year that President Trump during his presidency did not initiate any wars. How did you feel about Donald Trump becoming the first American president in history to bomb Iran at Netanyahu's request, something George Bush didn't even do?
I was not happy with that.
That didn't help the negotiating process, did it? You think it set it back?
No, for Gaza?
Yeah.
I don't think they were related. Okay. I don't think one was related to the other. But at the same time, this country needs to stay away from other countries and impose its will on other countries.
So I agree with you on that. And one of the points you made, and you make a very good point. You are, let's just be very honest. You're being very blunt. I want to be blunt. You are constrained in what you can say because you're trying to have an impact on the administration. If you condemn Donald Trump, you'll be out. I get that. But you have another role too, Bishara. And that is you were the founder of Arab Americans for Trump. You played a very political role in the election.
The thing Bishara Baba keeps brushing aside is that Trump has a long history of using ethnicity as a slur, not just against Palestinians, but against all kinds of groups. When he called Chuck Schumer a Palestinian as an insult, that wasn't some one-off gaffe. It fits into a broader pattern of Trump weaponizing identity, whether it was calling African nations shithole countries, telling American-born congresswomen of color to go back to where they came from, or retweeting anti-Muslim propaganda videos from far-right groups. That kind of rhetoric isn't just bad optics. It legitimizes bigotry and makes it harder for communities like Palestinians to be seen as anything other than political punching bags. And on the point of Trump not starting new wars, that's misleading when you zoom out. Sure, he didn't launch a full-scale invasion like Bush, but he escalated conflicts through targeted strikes, sanctions, and unconditional military aid. Take January 2020. Trump ordered the assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, bringing the US and Iran closer to open war than they had been in decades. Or consider that his administration approved record arms sales to Israel and Saudi Arabia, even bypassing Congress to push them through. Those decisions had direct consequences for Palestinians, Yemenis, and other communities caught in the crossfire. So when Mehdi Hasan asks why Bishara won't condemn Trump for comments or policies he admits are not acceptable, it really highlights the problem. Loyalty to Trump keeps outweighing loyalty to the very Palestinian people Bishara says he's advocating for. And that double standard is exactly why Mehdi's pressing so hard. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out ground news in the description down below.